Now I want to talk about the KTM Duke 200, the iconic KTM bike in India that made KTM's famous. If we're being honest, I mean that's the KTM everyone went and bought. And at the time when it came out, considering the price and the performance it was an awesome bike. But in 2025, I feel like the KTM Duke 200 and the RC 200, well, not the RC 200 yet, we'll have to wait and see about that. But the Duke 200 should be discontinued. And I know that's gonna make a lot of people mad, but just hear me out. I mean, the Duke 200, it was an awesome bike, it had great performance. Until the Duke 250 came out. That's where things got a bit complicated because the Duke 250 was way too close to the Duke 200. It had 5 more horsepower, a bit more of a bigger engine. I don't know the exact cc difference, but it's a bigger engine, considering the number and all that. And it was way too close together in terms of performance. Now, when it was just the Duke 200 and the Duke 390, nobody had any problem with that because that was kind of an entry level KTM everyone was looking for, and the 390 was the hardcore performance monster that everyone wanted. And both bikes had its place. But since the Duke 250 came out, it's gone a bit more complicated. And the 200, well, think about it. If you go and walk into a showroom, if there's a Duke 200 and a Duke 390, and the price difference is pretty big these days, it's not really hard to think about where you want, what you want to buy depending on how much money you're willing to spend. But when it comes to a Duke 250 and a Duke 200, the price is a bit too close to each other and the performance is too close, and it kind of confuses people. And I feel like the customers that would initially go for the Duke 200 would end up just going for the Duke 250 because you get a bit more performance and a bit more, well, it's a KTM, it's a Duke 250, and you can say you have a 250 Duke. And because of that, the Duke 200, the name kind of lost its, well, the power it had. But still, there was still one excuse left for KTM, that the Duke 200 was the entry level, well, kind of the entry level bike with a kind of performance. I mean, there was the Duke 125, but people didn't really care about that much, that one. They didn't consider it a Duke. But the Duke 200 felt like the entry level Duke for everyone. Now, that was a good excuse. It was cheaper, and people who just don't have a slightly extra budget, they could go for the 200. But now, the Duke 160 is out. And I honestly felt like KTM should have made a 160 Duke a long time ago, because that feels like a prime market for a motorcycle. I mean, think about it. Most people who want some performance but want some mileage and to use their bike as a utility while also having a little fun with their bike, a 150cc bike is a safe bet. I mean, it's not too exciting, but it's not too compromised in terms of fuel economy, and you're okay with it. You can't really complain about that. And that's honestly a big segment in India. And KTM should have brought a Duke 160 out earlier instead of the 125, but they didn't. But now they have brought out the 160, and it kind of fills in that gap for KTM. I mean, the bike has around, I think it's 18 point something, around 19 horsepower or something, under 19 horsepower. It's a 160, so it's going to have a bit more fuel efficiency. Now, I don't know what the official fuel figure is for the mileage and all that. I think it'll probably be around 50 or something. I think if that bike might be able to get a 50 kilometers per liter. And for KTM with around 19 horsepower, with the lookup that it has, that's a pretty good deal if it can get that fuel economy. That's the important thing, but I think it might be able to do it. Now, this actually makes the 200 completely irrelevant now, because think about it, there's a 160 Duke, there's a 200 Duke, there's a 250 Duke. Too many products that don't have a significant amount of difference between each other coming together. And if you think about it, you can kind of see that it's going to be really confusing for a lot of people, because the people who are looking for the 160 Duke, they'll be confused about the 200, and if they think about the 200 Duke, they'll become confused about going to the 160, and it feels like a way too much of a, well, there's way too much thinking involved when it comes to picking the bike. I mean, you don't know which one to pick. People end up having guilt about whether they ended up picking the bike with more performance even though they didn't need it because there's a less performance and more mileage version available, or if they picked one with mileage and they could have gone for more performance. That kind of a logical thinking does happen to people, and because of that, I feel like there needs to be a clear distinction between these bikes, and the easiest way to do it is to get rid of the 200 Duke. And think about it. If the 200 Duke is gone, that kind of makes the lineup pretty clear. I mean, the Duke 160 is the the daily rider Duke that you ride for to go to work or college or whatever, get a decent fuel economy, and it has enough performance on the highway and all that you won't be too satisfied with it or anything. And then the Duke 250, that's the performance focused Duke, the one you want when you want a lot of power and you want to focus on riding and all that stuff. When you want the bike for the experience, that's the bike. And then there's the 390 Duke. I mean, the 390 Duke, anyone who's going for that, that's going to be focused on hardcore performance. But you can see the difference. One is a daily driver type of bike, the other one is a performance level bike, and the other one is a hardcore performance level bike. And when these three categories are clear, it makes people's choice easier. What do they want? And because of that, I feel like the 200 needs to be discontinued. And yeah, there needs to be a clear distinction, because the 160 and 250, the gap in power is about what, 11 horsepower or something. That's a good gap, and it's not hard for people to think about. You're getting that much performance for sacrificing that much fuel economy, and the other one you're getting that much fuel economy for sacrificing that much performance, and it makes sense. So yeah, I feel like the Duke 200 should just end up being discontinued now that the Duke 160s come out. And instead of working on that bike, they can, I guess, KTM can work on other stuff or something. Or they could do something different and use the Duke 200 and turn it into a completely different type of motorcycle. I don't know. Maybe discontinue the Avenger 250 and bring out a Avenger 200 as an entry level bike. That could be nice. I mean, if you're anyone who wants an adventure level a bike from KTM, the 250 is the base option, and I guess prices might be a bit too high for a lot of people. So a 200 could make sense. A 200 Avenger Duke and a 200 KTM Avenger and a 390 KTM Avenger makes sense, right? So yeah, I feel like the Duke should be discontinued and maybe turn into something else.